Okay, today we're going to cover face masks. So I'm going to show you sort of the basics of the pen tool and making curves in Blender so that you can either add to an existing face mask, make nice edits, or create an entire face mask from scratch. Once you get the hang of it, you could knock out a mask like this in probably under 10 minutes and eventually faster. At least that's the goal. So I've been wanting to figure out how to make masks in Blender for a long time and finally found the right tutorial that got me there. Not perfect, but hoping by showing you guys what I know now, you guys start experimenting. We're all going to learn together and get even better at this process. So first things first, you have a few things you got to set up in Blender. So once you have Blender open, you want to go up to Edit and Preferences. And you're going to want to go to the Get Extensions. And you're going to want to make sure that you have extra curve objects installed as an extension. So these extensions already sort of pre-exist down in Blender here. You just have to search for it, up here. Okay, and then when you find it, you just click install, and it's like instant install, and now it is active. So you need to have this installed for any of this to make sense or work. Next thing you're going to want to do is under key map, make sure that for spacebar action you have it set to tools. It defaults to play, runs that whole play bar down at the bottom. Unless you're doing animations in Blender, making movies, yeah, you don't need that. It's going to improve your workflow if you have it set to tools. Works like a really great shortcut. So do those two things in your preferences, and then you can go ahead and get started. So I've already preloaded in a helmet and a mask. If you're going to be making a mask from scratch, you're going to want to import a helmet to work off of. Or if you're editing a mask, you're going to want to bring it in first so that you can sort of add what you need to around it. Even if you're creating a mask from scratch, there probably are going to be parts that are reused from existing masks. So it may not be a bad idea to just bring in sort of the closest existing mask that you have and then use it as a template, trace over, and then make your new modifications to that. Okay. Everything should be sort of lined in sort of the center there. Notice my mask runs right down these vertexes, okay? Or these axes, I should say, sorry. So once everything's all aligned, centered, you got everything imported, we can go ahead and get started. I'm going to start off, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to hide the helmet, and for now, I'm just going to hide the mask. All right. So what we want to do is you want to go up to the add menu up here. Make sure that you are in layout mode. And we're going to go down to curve and down to simple and then to point. All right. Now all these options exist in here because of that extension that we turned on earlier. So if you're not seeing these, just go back, double check, make sure that extension is installed. All right, and what we're going to do is we're going to select point, which is just a single point on a vertex. And there it is. Can't see it, but that's where it is. Now that it's there, hit the delete key and get rid of it. All right, why did we add just to delete? Well, we want to start fresh, okay? But we got to either drop a curve or drop a point, drop a line to get these tools over here that we actually do want to use. So we start with just a simple point, delete it, and now we can just we're still in edit mode, okay? We're still on this the object doesn't exist anymore, we deleted it, but it's sort of still active, even though we're in this empty space in edit mode. Kind of confusing, right? All right, click on the curve pen tool. Now, if you've used the pen tool in the Adobe products, Adobe Illustrator, or Photoshop for making curves and stripes, the pen tool is going to be pretty familiar to you. It's going to work very similar. With the pen tool, we're making what's called Bezier curves. Okay, so there's a learning curve to it. So it's not going to come natural right away if you haven't used these. But if you're used to this from decals, this is going to be pretty easy peasy. So I'm going to start by clicking, holding, and dragging. Okay. Now, what you're going to notice is, even though I was clicking and dragging up here, it's dropping it down on that axis here. So I'm going to hit delete again. Get rid of that. Why did it go down there? All right. The other place we're going to be spending some time in is in this data tab over here. And it's data related to curves. It defaults to 2D. We're going to change that to 3D for right now. Now, when I click and drag, I can do this anywhere in space. All right, which is what we want. So I click and hold and drag, release. All right, and now what that did is it dropped down a single point and gave it 2 handles, and these handles work just the way they do in Photoshop and Illustrator. Now what I'm going to do is, let's see, we'll go down to the right here, and I'm going to click, hold, and drag again. And now you can see it has made a path between those 2 lines, and if I keep clicking, I can keep adding to that. Okay, so I did some Command Z's, Control Z's to get rid of that. All right, so we're gonna start here. We're gonna go over the basics of how you manipulate a curve, and then we'll get into the mask making. So the other thing I had you change earlier was that spacebar activate tools. Okay, because we're gonna be moving between this curve pen tool and the move tool a lot. Okay, and so by just hitting spacebar and going up to move is a little bit faster than going back and forth. Okay, so right now the move tool is attached itself to this particular handle. So now if I pull the arrows here, it's moving the handle in that direction. If I click on the vertice here, now I'm pulling that point. I can go up or down. Now you can use this sort of gizmo apparatus, all right, to make your moves. Otherwise, if you're used to Blender and you know how you manipulate objects in Blender, it's usually G as in, G as in girl, and you hit G, and then that means grab, and now you just drag your mouse around to move that point. R is for rotate. Okay. And that's gonna be primarily what you're gonna be using. G and R, grab and rotate. Okay. All right. Again, if I click on here, or click on this handle and hit G, I can pull this in or out. I can go up or down. Now, if you notice what happens when I move this handle up and down, the opposite handle reacts in the opposite direction, so like teeter-totter motion right here, and that's the sort of the default way that handles behave. Now, if you hit the V key, V as in Victor, it brings up this little menu for changing how the handles react. So you're gonna be kind of bouncing between automatic and free. Okay, what you're seeing currently is automatic, and that's the default. But if I change to free, now when I move this handle, I'm only affecting this handle, and that's going to be important for some of the curves that we're going to be making. You're not going to be wanting that other handle to be reacting, just the one that you're operating. Okay, and at any time you can hit V and go back to no, I thought you could. Let's see. V. Okay. Well, let's see. Is it vector? Nope. Aligned? Nope. Toggle free align? Never mind. I thought you could go back to automatic and make it behave that way. I guess not. So once you change it, you can't go back to the dual way. I guess that makes sense because we're going to be moving these handles in the full 3 dimensions of space. And so I don't think there'd be an instance where you wanted to go all the way back to that original. So, all right, but that's how you manipulate the curve here. All right, click off of there. So this does not look like a mask at all. This is just a flat a flat line in space. There we go. So how do we thicken this up? So from this same menu that we were hanging out in over here, we know that we want this set to 3D so that it can be anywhere in space. First thing you want to do is you're going to want to change this fill mode to full. It defaults to half. What does that do? Animate property. I was hoping maybe that would make it stick forever because it's annoying that it defaults to half. All right. Then what you want to do is under bevel, you want this set to round. And now we change the depth. And by increasing the depth, we start to get thickness around this path here. Now if I go and I turn back on my face mask, make sure that I'm in this orthographic view. Yep, I can, maybe about there is what I'd want. And you can go back and you can change that at any time if you find you don't like that. Now, if I swing the camera around and we look at the end of our path here, we can see this is very low poly. Okay, you can see the flat edges going around. What I want to do is I want to up the resolution here to 16. It's not too much, it's not too little, but now you can barely see any of those edges. It's almost perfectly smooth. The other thing I want to do is click this fill caps so that now it's actually a solid object. Okay, now back up top here, remember we changed the fill mode to full. You can see if I were to change it, here's the half. Okay, so it actually only fills in half. There's also back and front. All right, so but we want that on full. Okay, within geometry, offset you wouldn't use. It just sort of takes that mesh and offsets it off its path. So we wouldn't use that. What happened? I was trying to undo the offset and it undid that. Okay, back to 0. Okay. But what is cool is the extrude. And as I drag this up, this starts to flatten it out. And there are some masks that do have sort of those flat faces, flat edges. So the extrude might come in handy for masks like that. But the big things are 3D, full fill mode, round on the bevel. You're going to apply some sort of depth to it, and then a resolution of 16. And then fill the caps. And now you've got yourself a bar here. All right, so let's go through how we would actually construct a mask. So bring this back up. When you're working, if you're gonna be tracing a mask like this, you wanna make sure, again, that we're sort of aligned here in the center so that, you know, when we're hitting the gizmo over here, we're getting straight on views, straight side on views, a good perfect straight top down, etc. So we're gonna be bouncing between those views a lot. The other thing you wanna make sure you're in orthographic mode or view, which you can toggle on and off by clicking this grid. This gives you, it's a very fisheye look to the object now. This nice straight flat on look. All right, so what we're gonna do is when you're making a mask, you really only need to design half the mask, and then we can mirror things at the end and then combine them. But there's no need to try to, if I go to the top down view here, just kind of come off here. We would never try to make a shape that goes all the way up, around, all the way to the other side and down, because it's so important that the mask stays symmetrical. That'd be really hard to do. I mean, if you're tracing, yes, but if you're going from scratch, a little bit harder. So we only want to work on halves and then mirror that. All right. So we already, we dropped we already dropped our point, deleted it, created this little shape here. So we can go ahead and we'll just continue to use this. So I'm going to switch out of edit mode, go back to object mode, and then I'm going to hit G for grab, and I'm going to pull this up and over here. All right. And rotate it a little bit. There we go. And now at least this end is just about center, and I can see this is a little bit thinner than my current mask, so I'm going to bump that up just a little bit. And I'm going to go a little bit more than I need to. This way, I know I'm tracing over it if I can't see the existing one. All right. And then this line right here is our center line, and I'm going to go just a little bit to the other side of center so that when I mirror it, I don't have a gap in between. All right. So we need to now make this go around and down. So we're going to go back into edit mode. All right. And how are we going to do that? So this works very similar in how you would manipulate curves if you're doing decaled stripes. But what we need to do is I'm going to go ahead and select this point, hit G for grab, and I'm going to bring it about over here. There. Okay. So you're dropping the point, right before it starts to make a change in direction. All right. But now this doesn't line up. All right. We need to get it. There's two curves we're working on. We need to get this bend around here. And it's also coming down. Okay. So I'll start with this, clicking on this point here. V for free. I'm going to grab this handle, and I'm just going to start to pull it out and around, and now you can see it lines up real nice, at least from this view. All right, it does need to come down, so I'll hit G for grab, and I'm going to, let's see, now I want to, let's see, where do I want to manipulate that from? Here. And it's definitely very different manipulating handles in 3-dimensional space versus 2-dimensional space. And I kind of go back and forth between clicking on vertices and handles. But now I've got this one coming around, but also down. And like I said, so now it ends here, and that's what I want. I want it to end right before I start to make another change in direction. So to add to this, we want to first activate this end point. With that end vertice activated, I can go back and grab my curve pen tool. And now wherever I click next, okay, it's going to be adding off the end of this. So I think I can go all the way down to here, click and pull, and then that should be good. I mean, it's where I want it. It just needs to be, moved a little bit. So I grab the move tool again. I'm gonna move that over here, and then start to make adjustments on. Let's see, we're gonna have to change this to free now, because I only want to move this one. Bring that over. Bring that over. Bring that over. And as I pan around, that looks pretty good. That is basically the shape that we were going for. So I'm going to go back into object mode, and you can see if I turn off the mask, there we go. I mean, that's a nice complex shape. We got, you know, multiple turns happening up and down and around and back in space. All right, so like I said, you would, if you can make this shape right there, then you can make just about any other shape in a face mask that you're gonna find. This is probably one of the more complicated pieces you'd have to make. All right, so like I said, you're only gonna be designing half the mask. So I already went ahead and started to create the other bars. Okay, so if I turn back on, okay, so we got this one, we've got this bar here, and this one coming around here. So we have one more we got to add here, but it's pretty much the same shape as this one. So let me turn my mask back on, and then make sure I just have this one selected here, and I'm going to reuse this one to make this one. So if I right click, I can do duplicate objects, and then as soon as I click that and start to move my mouse, it's going to start to pull that duplicate. So I'm just going to bring it right down there and hit G to bring it up a little bit. Gotta rotate this a little bit. Looks like it should be perfectly flat there. Right about there. All right. Now it's not an exact duplicate, so we're gonna go into here, edit mode, and we gotta pull this point in. Let's see. I was gonna try to. Oh, there. I wanted to get underneath. Yeah, underneath there. Okay. So I'm gonna grab that point, hit G, and we're gonna pull that there. Rotate it a little bit, and looks like I'm gonna have to grab, let's see, this handle's pretty short, which means it's not doing a lot of the heavy lifting here in terms of how it's creating this bend. So but I click on here, big long handle, I'm gonna change that to free, click here, and then I'm gonna pull that in. And then just making small adjustments, you know, working through space here to make sure. There, that's got to come, yep, this way. Like I said, it's tricky when handles are moving in sort of three-dimensional space here. All right, that seems to be okay. I'm going to turn off the mask here. Make sure I'm looking straight on. All right, this one's quite a bit past center. I'm gonna click on that, and I'm gonna bring it over there. It's a little, you can see it's a little tilted where these are more flat. That should be okay. I'd probably want it, you know, because this is gonna join up later on. Probably want those faces a little bit more flat. Let's see. So I'm gonna here, and then we'll just bring it back a little bit that way. All right. So this is as much as you would have to design. Okay. Well, we will have to do the single vertical crossbar. All right. But now what we need to do is we need to mirror this. We need to also convert this into a mesh, because right now this isn't even a real mesh. You couldn't print this. So let's go over how to do all that. All right, we're going to go ahead and select all these objects here. We're going to right click, and we're going to do convert to mesh. And if you notice, that watch these icons over here. They're all going to change. You can see their curve assets. When I do convert to mesh, now they all switch to this icon here. So this is now a mesh. These little dots in space are showing where sort of like the center point is of all these individual assets. I'm going to right click. I'm going to set origin to 3D. I don't know. Let's see. Yeah, origin to 3D cursor. Now all those center points are aligned around the 3D cursor right down the midpoint. All right. Before I mirror, I'm going to duplicate. So I'm going to right click, duplicate. Now remember, if I start to move my mouse, it's going to start to pull. So I'm going to hit escape. I'm going to right click again, and now I'm going to hit mirror. And I believe I want X global. What happens if I hit interactive mirror? I don't know what that did. So I'm just going to do, well, I don't want X. Is it Y? It was Y global. Okay, there we go. I want Y global. Okay, so now, yes, now we have all separate objects. These are all meshes. All right, now we want to combine these. All right, so if we remember, there's different ways that we can combine in Mesh Mixer. You can do combine objects, which makes them all one object, but you can still go through the separate shells process to separate them back into their original pieces. Or you can use Boolean union, which truly makes it a singular object that you can no longer easily separate. Now, there might be, let's see, for this, you probably want to use a combination. You would never separate this half from this half in a mask. But you may want to separate do like a separate objects to eliminate this bar. You might want this separate. So you might want to have the choice to run separate shells, isolate this part, and delete it out of the mask. So we are going to do a combination. All right, so we are going to be doing a combination. We're going to be creating unions and then also joining. So to create a Boolean union, we're going to start with this side here. We have to click on this wrench tool to bring up modifiers. Click add modifier and then start to search for Boolean. And we want to make sure we're choosing union. It's set to pick up another object. We use the eyedropper. We click on that, and then we click on the object we want to make a union with. All right, and now you can see by the outline, it's sort of made this one object. But modifiers are, they're like a filter. What you're seeing is not real. It's the perception of what would actually happen. We could turn this, I could just delete this filter and it's no longer actually joined. So to make this real and actually one mesh, I do have to click on this option button here and hit apply. All right. So now it is one object, but what's with all this distortion here? Well, like I said, it did not actually remove that original object, which is actually, kind of nice. It's still, but in this case, we just have to delete it. All right. But now this is one solid object. There's some funkiness going on with the mesh right here because of that overlap. It's something that this is the part I really haven't quite fully figured out. But when I bring it back into Mesh Mixer and apply a little bit more mesh to this area, it smooths out and it looks pretty good. So that's how I've been getting around that for now. All right, we're gonna do another modifier here, and union, grab, and then apply, and then I can eliminate that part. Same thing here. And if you've used the Boolean union in Mesh Mixer, you know how long that takes. So this is really nice, how quickly this goes. And last one. Oh, made the mistake of selecting both. That's not how it works. I select one. Union. Okay, so now we have 1, 2, 3, 4 objects. All right. Now, I might decide that, like I said, now I might decide that this one I don't want to be part of this mesh because maybe later I want to separate shells and have the ability to remove this part of the mask. So maybe I just join this one. I did the same mistake again. You can't select both. You select one. All right, so start with this one. Union. And here. And apply. All right, so now this is one object, one mesh that can't be separated. And probably the same with this one. So and apply. And delete. There we go. So now this is everything in orange is one continuous mesh. Okay, that can't be separated. But let's say I want this one to be part of my object, but I might want to get rid of it later. I don't know. So now I can multi-select and then hit Command J as in jump. And it's one object. You can see it's only one object up here. All right. But I could separate shells and remove it later. All right, so then we only have one more bar to create. Sort of right down the center there. All right, so what's left is this bar down the middle. So go ahead and we add our point. Delete that point. Got our pen tool here. Right away, we're gonna go over to here. We're gonna click 3D. So we're working on all dimensions. I'm gonna come in here, zoom in a little bit. We're gonna click and hold here at the top bar. Pull down. And then click down here. We can see our bar. We'll just change over to the move tool right away. And let's go ahead and make that full. And up that thickness and that resolution up to 16. All right. Looks good from the front. Sure, it does not look good from the side. No, of course not. So again, I click on this with the move tool. I can go ahead and just grab the red arrow and because I clicked on the vertice. We need to grab both those vertices and then pull. All right, right there. Oh, I can see I missed my end caps. I'll fill those caps. All right, then we'll go ahead and we're gonna look at this from the side. All right, so we need to grab this top one here. And let's see. Oh, I had the handle, not the point. Now I got the point. Just sort of pull that back there. Hold the handle. This guy, bring it over here. And get that handle and rotate. Pull that in a little bit. Pull that one in a little bit. really pull this handle out a little bit more. There we go. Now it's on the outside of this bar. Take a look from the front. Looks good from the front. I might just, bring this one up a little bit. Maybe bring this one down a little bit. Now, as I'm pulling down, if I want to, if you want a controlled pull, make sure you're using the arrows to stay along the axis, or if you hit G for grab, you can then hit X or Y on the keyboard to control which way you're pulling it, or Z if you're going vertically in space. There we go. So it looks good from the front, looks good from the side. I'll go back into object mode, select these two and hit Command J or Control J, depending on what device you're using. And will not combine because it's not a mesh. Right click on this object first, convert to mesh, select them both and Command J. And now we got ourselves one object. I can go into Mesh Mixer, I can separate shells, and I would be left with three separate objects. Okay, sort of the outer cage, this bar, and then this bar, which I can then, choose to delete at a later stage if I wanted to. But there is the quick and dirty, sort of how to use the pen tool to construct a mask. So good luck.